Okay.
In fact, as you take the corner to the right, Chipman has got a field here, and you get to the first old farmhouse. That was the finish line for the hill climb. And let's see if I can tell you. 2/3 of a mile. So if you measured off 2/3 of a mile, you'd find out where the starting line is. I've got to do that sometime. So I have a theory that it wasn't all the way down to the lake. It was in a field partway up the hill where they started. But one guy went up so fast that he became airborne and went out into the pucker brush. This is a trophy that was won there. Portland Sunday Telegram Trophy, Maine Automobile Association Hill Climbing Contest, Thurlow Hill, Poland, Maine, June 17, 1911. Winner, Class A event, 4A stock cars. Cars valued at $1,501 to $2,000. It was won by Bealey, by George Wallace Jr. of Pittsburgh, Massachusetts. Time, 1 minute, 9 seconds, in 2/3 of a mile. I met this man years ago at a car show. He had a very large collection. Later on, upon his death, he donated it to the earthquake research to put in the test us and know when we're going to have an earthquake and how bad the earthquake is in given areas of the United States. But he never told me that he was the one that raced in my town. Here it is, proof that it was what I like to see him today.
What did you drive?
A Bealey.
He was driving a Bealey, 4-cylinder Bealey.
He was racing at Old Orchard Beach in 1911.
Notice number 3 being a Stanley racer. In recent years,
On the beach.
there is a great deal of interest in recreating this vehicle. And this fellow I knew in Pennsylvania decided that he was going to build 2 of them, one to sell, one to keep. He built them, sold both of them eventually. One man bought one of them and he was very unhappy with the vehicle, and he complained. And the man says, if you can, you're so smart, build your own. And he did. It performs very well. I've ridden in it. I've never driven in it, and like that. It goes like a rocket. We headed down to a hill climb in Worcester, Mass. It was a mile hill climb and 320-foot climb, I think it was. Pretty steep. And he did it in 1 minute, 1 second from a standing start. He almost ran over the motorcycle cop that was leading him up the hill.
Still racing in 1911.
This is a Birchia made in New York. Notice the pier. Anybody that's been down there, this is a...
Blitz's done. 200 horsepower, 4-cylinder racer.
200 horsepower, 4-cylinder car. This car is known as the Ed Bishop car. Ed Bishop bought this car at Old Orchard in 1914 to race, but didn't race due to the Canadians who are not traveling due to the war. The car was found in Old Orchard around 1971 and has been restored and is in Pennsylvania. The car was formerly raced by Barney Oldfield and Bob Newman, very famous racers at the time. This has pistons the size of Quaker Oat boxes, 7 1/4 inch diameter.
He did Disbro in his Winkler special at Old Orchard.
At this time, we're talking Airstream. It's so shocking to look back at this and thinking that they even knew back then that they had to cut the wind resistance down to pick up speed and drag and all of that.
SPO racer that raced at Old Orchard in 1913.
This is a photo of the restored car, which is currently in California. I'd like to get that back here.
Where is it?
It's in a collection in California.
Next week?
Nobody's sleeping.
Sir, it shows any pictures of Stanley steamers that were made in Maine.
They wasn't made here.
I thought they were, in Lewiston.
No, the boys were made in Kingfield. They lived here in town, they had businesses here, but they moved out of town in the fall of 1890 and made their first car in 1897 in Massachusetts. But, like I just showed you, we had many others that was made right here in Lewiston, and the history of all these cars being made here, and there was only, you go down the street tomorrow morning and ask people about steam automobiles, and 90% of the people walking any street in this city is going to tell you that they was made right up here. Honestly, I've tried it. There were steam cars made right up there, but they weren't Stanleys. But there's only Model T Fords and Stanley Steamers. There are only two makes of cars ever made in this country. Well, you've seen pictures, and in the book we have 232 makes. It was made in Maine. There's over 6,000 makes in the United States alone, but the average person will tell you about the Model T Ford and the Stanley Steamer. And they'll put that period at the end of that statement. So it's kind of comical to get out there and talk about it, go to the shows and like that and hear the stories.
Thank you.
Yeah. Come up. Everybody wants to, you know. We have a small collection out at the house, but what we have is a collection that ranges from 1904 to 1915. And there's such a wide range of those vehicles and what they look like and like that. If you want to, sometime you're driving by, we're on the Lane Road, stop in, ring the doorbell. I'll tell you to come right in, or I'm too busy for you today. I'm honest that way. Some of you have already been there, you know. But there's something to see. There really are. Yes, sir.
What do you have to offer?
We have a 1904 Cadillac, 1910 McLaughlin Buick, two 1913 Model Ts, and a 15 Buick truck. Yes, ma'am.
You commented about the road in Bar Harbor where they were not allowed to ride. Well, it just happened yesterday. I read an article in Maine History Magazine over in the Auburn Library about the development of roads in Maine, and it's absolutely fascinating.
Oh.
It's in the stacks on the second floor, down at the end. It's just a little magazine called Maine History, and it's about a 10-page article about really early roads, the disputes between the farmers and the town people, and when the tourists were coming in, and farmers didn't like that, what was going on with the roads. It's really very interesting.
Out there collecting photographs and newspaper clippings, you'll find that there was mud holes at certain places, certain crossroads out front of Dr. Jones's farm and like that. These people were hauling cars out of the mud in the daytime, and their sons were hauling water at night. No doubt about it. They had a cash crop, and they're going to keep it going. They're going to water that crop all they can. And you just, you know it. You look at the lay of the land, and there's no way that there's any water there unless it's hauled in. So it's comical. I love my hobby. I'm pleased that you all showed up and stayed. Other comments? Yes, sir.
Now, all those cars, they were for private use, so they could go on the road, or?
No, that's the funny thing of it. They all could go on the road. We had no laws like that until 1905 was the first automotive law in the state. And that was the speed limits came out in certain towns, and you had to license the vehicle. And then you had to be so old to drive and have a license. No tests. None of that stuff. Send your name in and the $5, and you got your license plate, and your license was $2, and you could drive.
There was no rules or anything about what a car had to be?
No, there still isn't. If you don't believe it, go out here to 3 used car lots. Nobody knows what a car is supposed to look like yet. Right?
Yeah, my father sent in for his license, and then he went in town and he bought a car, and the salesman drove from Auburn to Danville with him, and then he drove the salesman back, and that was his entire driver's training.